The restaurant was silent, except for the laughter. At table 7, the CEO of a global tech company leaned back in his chair, smirking. "You, take my order in Chinese," he mocked. His friends burst out laughing, their suits gleaming under the golden lights. Across from them stood Maya, tray trembling in her hands, eyes fixed on the floor. She worked double shifts all week, saving every dollar to pay for her mother's surgery. Yet tonight, all she got was laughter for something she never even said. The manager looked away. No one stepped in. It was the kind of silence that burns more than words ever could. Maya swallowed hard, forcing a smile, but behind it hid something none of them could see. Something powerful, something waiting. But soon, everything changed. Maya Daniels never planned to be a waitress forever. At 24, she dreamed of teaching languages, of standing in front of a classroom, showing kids that brilliance can come from anywhere, from anyone. But life hadn't given her the easy path. Her mother's medical bills, her rent, her night classes, it all depended on these long, exhausting shifts at Ridgeview Prime, a restaurant where power dined and humility served. And tonight, Power wore a designer suit named Ethan Cross, CEO of a multimillion-dollar firm, known for his charm in interviews and his cruelty off camera. To him, people like Maya were invisible until they made a mistake. That mistake came fast. A glass slipped from her tray, shattering near his table. The sound echoed through the marble hall like a warning bell. Ethan didn't miss the chance. He leaned forward, grinning. "You break it, you buy it," he said loudly enough for every table to hear. "Guess that's a week's salary for you, huh?" Laughter rippled around the room. Maya bent down, cheeks burning, sweeping the shards into her palm even as one cut her finger. Not a single coworker looked up. No one dared. Ethan's company practically sponsored the restaurant. He was the kind of man whose name alone closed mouths. But while he smirked and raised his glass, Maya pressed her hand against the tiny cut and whispered to herself, in a language no one there could understand. It wasn't a prayer, it was a promise. A promise that one day he'd regret ever seeing her as less. The next evening, the restaurant buzzed louder than usual. Ethan Cross had returned, this time with clients from Beijing. Word spread fast through the staff. Tonight mattered. The manager ordered everyone to be flawless, and when he saw Maya's name on the rotation, he frowned. "Just don't make a scene," he muttered. She nodded quietly, adjusting her apron. Inside, her stomach twisted, but not from fear, from focus. Ethan spotted her instantly. "Oh, look who's still here," he smirked. "Didn't break enough plates last night?" His clients laughed politely, unsure of the context, but following his lead. Maya approached with a calm, practiced grace, setting down the menus without a word. One of the Chinese clients asked a question softly, pointing at the wine list. Ethan laughed again. "Don't bother," he said, waving his hand dismissively. "She barely speaks English." The laughter this time was louder. It carried across the dining room, pulling glances from nearby tables. Even the pianist hesitated mid-note. Maya's hand tightened around the edge of her tray, but she didn't speak. Not yet. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, eyes flicking toward the clients. For a second, barely noticeable, one of them frowned, whispering something to the man beside him. She caught it. They understood every word Ethan said. Ethan kept talking, louder now, showing off his half-learned Mandarin phrases. "See, this is how you greet someone, ni hao or whatever." He exaggerated the sounds, his tone careless, disrespectful. The clients exchanged uncomfortable glances. Maya simply smiled faintly, as if memorizing every syllable, every insult. Then came the next blow. Ethan deliberately spilled a few drops of red wine on the tablecloth, gesturing at her. "Clean that up, will you, quickly, before our guests lose their appetite." The restaurant fell into uneasy silence, all eyes on her. Maya knelt down, wiping the table slowly, deliberately. Every motion was controlled, graceful, and just as Ethan leaned back in triumph, she whispered, barely audible, "Zai zai, shen mi du kingjila." The words slid like silk through the air. The Chinese guests froze, their eyes widened. Ethan blinked, confused. "What did you just say?" Maya stood up, her face calm, her eyes unflinching. "Just being polite, sir." Something shifted in the room. The whispers began, the clients murmured to each other, and Ethan, for the first time all evening, didn't look so sure of himself. The dining room held its breath. Ethan Cross leaned back, trying to mask confusion with a cocky grin, but something in the air had changed. The polite whispers had grown into murmurs of astonishment. Guests were leaning forward, eyes flicking between him and Maya. She approached the table, tray in hand, every step deliberate. Her voice was steady, quiet, but it carried an authority no one there could ignore. "Sir," she said, locking eyes with Ethan, "I'm fluent in 5 languages, and I've just been hired to consult for your company's overseas expansion in Beijing." The words landed like thunder. A client's fork clattered onto their plate. A hush swept the room. Ethan's grin faltered. His eyes darted nervously, searching for a cue, a hidden joke, but found nothing. Maya continued, calm, precise, "And by the way, the contract for tonight's event, it's in my name. You signed it without reading." Time seemed to stop. Ethan's hand froze midair, the wine glass trembling slightly. His ego, the armor that had carried him through boardrooms and deals, crumbled in seconds. The laughter, once his weapon, died. Every guest now saw what he had ignored. Arrogance unchallenged only breeds ruin. Maya's posture didn't shift. Her gaze didn't waver. The same hands that had served tables now commanded attention, respect, and undeniable authority. The clients nodded subtly to her, impressed, reassured. The restaurant staff exhaled quietly. Those who had whispered encouragement before now stared openly, in awe. Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came. The room itself seemed to hold him in place. For the first time, he wasn't the one in control. Maya smiled faintly, setting down the tray. "Sometimes, sir, the quietest ones are the ones who decide the game." The murmur of astonishment swelled into applause, soft, restrained, yet full of recognition. Justice had been served, elegant, silent, undeniable. Ethan remained frozen, watching her walk back to the side, the very definition of power hidden in plain sight. The restaurant buzzed softly now, but it wasn't the same. Where once there had been fear and tension, there was admiration. Guests who had once barely noticed Maya now lingered at her table, nodding, whispering praise. The staff, who had long tiptoed around her presence, offered smiles, subtle bows, acknowledgement in gestures both small and profound. Ethan Cross stood frozen for a long moment, the weight of his arrogance pressing down. Then, finally, he cleared his throat, his voice tight. "Maya, I underestimated you. I should have seen this coming." It wasn't a boast, it wasn't a challenge, it was acknowledgement. Respect returned, not with fear, but earned. Maya didn't gloat. She simply smiled, calm, poised. The justice wasn't in humiliation, it was in being recognized for who she truly was. The clients murmured quietly among themselves, impressed not only by her talent, but by her grace. Her mother's medical bills had been fully covered by the generous tips and additional support from the patrons who had witnessed the scene. Life, in that room, had tilted slightly in her favor, not because she fought back with anger, but because she had let her skill, intelligence, and poise speak for her. Ethan watched silently as she walked past him one last time. There was no victory in his eyes, only understanding. Arrogance could only carry someone so far, and underestimating another could undo even the strongest ego. Maya paused at the door, turning her head for a moment, eyes glinting with quiet resolve. "Never let anyone define your limits," she whispered to herself, "because the ones who doubt you might just witness your power when it matters most." And with that, she stepped out, leaving behind whispers, awe, and a lesson that would linger far longer than any insult ever could.